Semifinals, and Dignitas and DNL are just about ready to head into Game 2. Now, before we get to the action, remember, if you see a big play, remember to tweet at Esports using that hashtag CSBigPlayers, and you could even see your tweet on air. And yeah, so Game 1, Stress, that was very convincing from DNL, a lot better than what we've seen from them over a lot of the most recent weeks, but definitely a return to form.
Right, there were certainly some big plays in that game when you look at Kyrie's ganks as well, so get those big plays in. But you mentioned that it was an improvement from DNL. I agree, and in the sense that alongside the improvement, it was also the same DNL playstyle. No, it wasn't the same playstyle. I was going to make the complete opposite point. Okay. It was a very different playstyle to what we've seen from DNL when it comes to actually team fighting, but the focus was the same when it comes to the point at which they were playing in the game, with mid-game focus on their team. Normally they rely a lot on split pushing, being in a side lane, and then when Wicked's playing he'll teleport for team fights, but certainly this time it was way more focused on let's just take team fights, let's make these plays where it's 3 versus 2 and just take people off the map.
Yeah, I honestly feel like DNL are the type of team who very much play very similarly to how they always play. Like, will Valkyrie into the opposing team, but when he's ahead, that works great. We saw him jump over the wall, 1v1, take out the AD carry, completely destroyed him, saw him jump into like 3 guys, killed all of them because he was so far ahead. Obviously, when he's behind, that doesn't work because he just kind of dies. But in situations where he can snowball and the team can snowball, the game just gets out of control, and you saw it right there. Yeah,
the game really, really does get out of control. And, you know, I kind of looked during the break, see whether the players had said anything, and lo and behold, Senkux actually made a tweet. Yeah, I made some mistakes. There was some colorful language in there, which, you know, I'm going to omit that. Made some mistakes in the game. Miscommunications happened between the team in that game. We're going to work on it. It's going to be better for Game 2. It's not going to happen again. I mean, that's the theory.
Yeah. Can you execute it?
But at the same time, we saw that in Week 5 in both games, the early game kills leading to a snowball. And it seems like whenever there's that focus on mid lane, it's very difficult, if Obvious isn't ahead himself in the jungle, very difficult for him to get in there and actually assist in the lanes when the team is behind and Obvious is behind.
I mean, we'd typically be saying, like, oh, Senkux should probably play something more defensive, but he played Orianna, so, I mean, you know. But yeah, maybe something with even more defensive capabilities. Anyway, we're going to actually take a look at one of the replays from that last game, which was essentially the game-winning team fight. It was where all of DNL was sat on top of that crab shrine, and Dignitas just essentially walked on top of them and died. So
yeah, that's basically what happened. We can take another look at it again. See if you're right, Paul. See if your powers of prediction are correct.
From what I've already seen.
Nailed it. Yeah, at this fight, at this point, the game is way, way over. You can see Team Dignitas 37 minutes into this game with Tamkench, Nautilus, and Rek'Sai building tank. They should be able to at least absorb a lot of this damage, but there was no chance at this point. Didn't even get the thick skin off there for Tamkench. And Tamkench is a pick. I don't think the pick was the problem, but Team Dignitas never utilized it until right at the end. And that's kind of what we alluded to during the game, is like, top lane Tamkench, you can't utilize the kind of the taxi passage where you bring somebody along with you. You can't orchestrate ganks in the middle lane without the enemy mid laner being quite silly about things and pushing up way too far. So really, I would like to see Wonderwear on a different pick than the Tamkench. I like Tamkench, but not in that scenario. Yeah,
it might get to the point where in this next Champion Select that we get to a point where Tamkench is a good pick. But I feel like, because it was also the last pick as well, so like they were actually thinking about it and how it's going to work. But maybe if the team was ahead, maybe if they could actually get out onto the map, that would have been a good pick. But yeah, definitely in that scenario, not so much. But yeah, again, I don't think Tamkench was the be-end and end-all of that game.
No, I don't think so at all. I think there were a lot of other issues, specifically to do with the early game Rengar plays that we've kind of shown, kind of looked at from Kyrie onto Senkux. And we talked about it briefly in the last, at the end of the last game. Rengar was picked because Elise and Nidalee were banned away from Kyrie. Now you've got to make the decision. Do you let the same thing happen again? Or do you ban the Rengar and let one of the others through? Because the other side of DNL always getting blue side is they always get first pick.
They always get first pick, But the other ban in from Dignitas was Irelia. And do they fear the wicked Irelia that much that they can't just like pick a Hecarim into it and just triple ban Kyrie and put him onto like a Gragas or like a Rek'Sai, something that's just meta, but he's not as strong as those other 3 champions?
Yeah, I think that's a very valid question. Is do you fear it? Do you think it's going to undo your composition?
I mean, it was a pretty big deal in that game, Stress. I mean, also Elise being so good on the current patch, Nidalee just being the meta jungler at the moment, great into a lot of other jungle matchups. I don't know, it might be where they put their focus, but we'll see.
Maybe.
We are currently just waiting, as we do have a connection problem with Kyrie, so we're just working on resolving that issue, and we should be into this one as fast as possible.
Yeah, I think it's kind of good to look at that top lane matchup once again, because there's some interesting stats when you look at these 2 top laners just against each other. We already touched on the fact that Wicked typically gets himself ahead, roughly 100 gold ahead, 10 minutes, and about 7 CS at that point. It's a little bit of a lead. The problem is when you look at the other side of the map, Wonderwear is down gold on average at 10 minutes, down 100 gold, and is down in CS. It's only 1, but on average... That does mean that he tends not to get the leads in the top lane. Not a lot of the focus from Obvious goes top lane either. He normally is focusing either bottom lane or mid lane. So Wonderwear himself in these 1v1 scenarios tends to fall behind, whereas Wicked tends to get ahead. So if you put Wicked on a champion like Irelia, who wants to snowball, against a player that typically falls behind in lane, that's a recipe for disaster if you're on Team Dignitas.
It is, but then you look at the other side of the coin, you can just pick like a Malphite or something into it, something that neutralizes the lane straight up.
Right.
And just be like, oh, you want to pick Irelia? I'm just going to play this boring lane against you.
Right, but here's the picks and bans flow here.
Yeah.
Because if now Nidalee or Elise are open and they first pick it, you've got to wait a long time until you see what solo laners are on the other side. Because then Denial just go bot lane as picks 2 and 3. You have to lock either mid lane or top lane at this point. This is a very theoretical picks and bans phase, but the flow, the pace of picks and bans then goes over to Denial. If you know that he's going to pick Irelia, you either have to take it away from him or you let it over and kind of just preemptively pick something that's okay against it.
Yeah, and forcing yourself onto counter-picking and using your counter-pick for just top lane, especially when you have a playmaker like Sencooks who really benefits from having a good matchup in mid lane, it's tough. And as you mentioned, this is not going to change from Champion Select to Champion Select, as they have chosen to be on the same side every single game. But with this loss as well, we saw this gradual decline from week 4, even though they went 2-0 in that week, and then week 5 as well. They just kind of got worse and worse. Now they had that boot camp, and we were expecting it to go up again and just see a return to form for Dignitas, and now we necessarily haven't. So are they just going down into this spiral and just loss of control, or is it just this one game just because they were playing against DNL who threw them off?
So I feel like a lot of it is to do with Team Dignitas came into this split very strong. Just as a team in general, the coaching staff behind them, their mentality, everything about those first 3 weeks, I think was a lot of pre-preparation. Then it all got rocked. The fact that Broken Shad had to go over to North America, you replaced part of your coaching staff. They had a couple of kind of shaky performances on LAN halfway through when a lot of the challenger teams went over to the Esports Festival, which Denial ended up winning. It seems that Team Dignitas need time to build up their strengths, and as soon as it starts going, they really struggle to right the ship. Because now that Broken Shard's come back, I was speaking to him about how the boot camp's been going. And he said, at the beginning, it was rough, real tough for them. It sounded like perhaps it wasn't having the effect that they wanted. They've been boot camping now for a week, and he says it's improved. Certainly, they've still got time to fix it, but now they're one game away from only having an opportunity at the promotion tournament. This is a team that, after the first 2 or 3 weeks, we said this is going to be very likely the team that gets automatically promoted into the LCS, and I don't feel comfortable saying that again.
No, and it feels like a very volatile team as well, where in that LAN environment, didn't work out. Then also now in a LAN environment, it's still not working out because they're all sitting together, and maybe it's just like, I don't know, seeing each other's faces just doesn't help their gameplay. Like, I'm not entirely sure what it is, but we also saw that decline before while they're all playing at home as well on this online. So, Yeah, it just became very volatile, and I was surprised because it was the team who we thought was most consistent.
Yeah, for sure. And you raise a good point, actually, when talking about boot camps, is it's a very accelerated gaming house environment that you just kind of throw players into. It's like, it is beneficial if the boot camp is long enough to get through any kind of environmental issues with regards to playing in a new area, personal issues between players, because having to stay with your teammates who you've probably only met a handful of times, you've spoken to a lot, but there's this tense environment in game. As soon as you transition that to an offline environment, that's where things really you start seeing any kind of personal back and forths, maybe conflicts that come in. That's when you really have to kind of iron those out. And you take a look at our LCS teams, teams that were kind of pushed together quite quickly. You look at the likes of Fnatic with Reckless joining. That's one of Daylor's biggest strengths that he's talked about, is he does not deal with conflict when it comes to it. There's no conflict between the players. It's all with the manager or the coach. And I wonder how anything like that is fixed on a challenger level, because most of the time you're playing from your own houses. You don't have this environment where you're all in the same place.
Yeah, it's just super hard for a team. But I actually kind of want to look at their opponents right now, because Denial are peaking like pretty much right at the right time, right before playoffs, right at playoffs, and then going into the rest of the tournament. They win another one here, and they go into the grand finals. They are definitely going to be in the promotion tournament. And Denial is a team who have had a lot of changes, and it's weird saying have they found the right formula, because literally you've seen Hiva coming in right at the last moment and being like, well, I'm just going to turn up and do well. And then we also look at like the likes of Gamers too, right, who have basically changed their lineup all the way through the split and now are looking really good. So what do Denial do? Do they continue with this formula, which is obviously working very well? I mean, they just handed it to Team Dignitas, a team who we were looking at as one of the best in the tournament so far. So do they stay like this? Do they go back? Do they...
It's odd, because every time Denial make a change, they either will win and it'll look great for them, or then kind of weeks through. I think week 3 we spoke to Wick and he was like, you know, why don't you think we're the top team? We can beat Team Dignitas. We know we're the top team in Challenger. And then the next week they lose. And I'm like, well, there. And then they make another change, or the same change again, and they win and look very convincing. They're a team that have shown us that they can be the best team in Challenger, but not week on week. And with all of these changes, this is where, as you said, it's tough to read exactly where Denial stand. Because remember, this is, as you said, a team that got thrown together right as Challenger started. Just got their way through ranked 5s, barely squeaked into the qualifiers. And yes, they did from there look very, very strong. I think this was a team that was like 80-3 on ladder.
Something like that.
Something
figure,
very, very
Origin-esque from Spring for sure.
But you know, they're very, very close to a spot in playing into the LCS, maybe the auto promotion. Maybe we can take a look at exactly the road to get there that remains for these teams, because we're one game in now between Team Dignitas and Denial. So one more win here for Denial puts them in the finals. At a minimum, they will be in promotion tournament. Either they get to LCS or they have to play either SK or Gambit, which if you look at both teams and how they perform, Denial on form could very well have a good spot there. But tomorrow we've got Gamers 2 and Mousesports, our 1st seed and 4th seed team respectively, going head-to-head.
Yeah, of course the losers will go into that 3rd place match. Right now, DNL, Esports and Dignitas. It's funny because right at the start of the split, we were even saying like, oh yeah, DNL and Dignitas going to be 1 and 2. Turns out 2 and 3, and then Gamers 2 managed to squeak in right at the very end. It was so weird. It was just like, yeah, they're a mid-tier team. Oh, the first.
Yeah, all they needed was those couple of wins. They had weeks where they kind of traded 1-1, and that's the deceptive thing. Was we
the only teams that did that as well. Yeah,
we felt the Gamers 2 losses a lot more than we felt their wins. Because early in the split, that's when they played the likes of Overclockers, X and Yellow, and it was like, great, they won the games that they should do.
Cool. And
then they won the games that maybe they, were more contested between these two. But, certainly that is tomorrow's game that we'll be looking forward to. Unfortunately, at this point, we're still waiting on Kairei's connection issues to resolve themselves. We'll give you an update on that as soon as we actually hear more. But hopefully it won't take too long. But, I'm looking forward to getting into Game 2. Because Game 1 was pretty much a clinic from Denial. And I enjoy watching the plays that they made on the map.
I also actually wonder what this is like from a player perspective, right? Like, you have a long time between games 1 and 2, and particularly from a Dignitas' perspective, you've got to start thinking about all those mistakes, and whether it's worse that you're actually just still thinking about that instead of just getting into the next game and actually getting into the flow of things.
Well, the other side of that is they're boot camping with their coach, with them, which is beneficial in this situation. You know, this isn't something that particularly happens too much. It's not like you've got your coach on TeamSpeak saying, just chatting in your ear, just ignore him, just like put him on mute. Never tell him he's there. At this point, the focus that can come from an experienced coach, and you know, Broken Shot has coached quite a few teams to this position and further positions. When you look at the likes of when he played on Complexity, you know, he was in one of the very first splits of the LCS as well himself. He's actually had a lot of experience of getting teams to the LCS. So certainly when it comes to how to play from this situation, you'd expect that wealth of experience to be easily put forward to a young set of players like the Team Dignitas setup. And you have to expect that there is an essence of respect and you know,
of course,
for the experience, and to listen at this point could be beneficial, but at the same time, it is a waiting game.
Yeah,
now you're waiting
just
on the
skewing in that first game. So
hopefully they're utilizing the time well and drafting a much better picks and bans phase for how they want to implement this game. I don't think their picks and bans phase was particularly bad, but the way they played the game from having picks and bans really was detrimental.
Yeah, I mean, even drafting a game plan as well from the early game, maybe how to counter those early game plays, perhaps coming out from Kyrie. I mean, the landscape has definitely changed as well, as we are now on 5.14. We've seen Elise changes, Azir changes even, a very big pick from Senkuk, so I wonder even if he just moved away from the pick with the changes.
Hello, Robin.
Oh, hey, he's not a guy I've seen in a long time.
No, neither have I.
Robin the Fourth.
He's
blast from the
become
past.
a poltergeist and is haunting our
the
podcast.
series.
He's somewhere here in the studio. Just gonna see him float by.
Just playing
on the river.
Like, with the ult coming across.
Dear.
But yeah, I mean, a lot's changed. Azir, Robin's back. And
Robin's back. Dan's out. See you, Dan. No, at this point, you alluded to, a lot has changed out of the jungle. We saw the Elise banned out in that game. Solo queue has felt Elise ever since the changes. That 0.6 second increase at rank 1 Cocoon, whew, boy, that is that's difficult to deal with. Plus the changes that previously happened to Rune
Spiderlings as well.
Spiderling changes. Just a lot of things really just making Elise quite strong right now. Although there is still a debate on whether you go Cinder Hulk in competitive, whether you go Rune Glaive. I haven't seen too much competitive play since we are the first region to be playing on 5.14 when it comes to Elise in the jungle. Banned in the only game we've had. So I don't really feel willing to... It's real strong. That's all we know.
Yep.
But hopefully we may see a game. Depends on whether people want to let that through.
Yeah, and again, I mean, Kyrie being a player who was always an Elise, a Rengar player, like, this is just suiting him down to a T, right?
That's the funny thing, because I remember casting when they were Copenhagen Wolves Academy in the promotion tournament up against Rockat. And in game 3, he picks Elise. And this is when nobody is playing Elise. He's just like, give me it. Give me this Elise, and loses. Because the team just didn't show up at that point. But if he was willing to play Elise when she wasn't being played, imagine what'll happen now when she's quite strong.
Yep, definitely. It has to be a ban in this series, and honestly, throughout the rest of playoffs, as we're still on this patch, I don't expect any team to let that free really against him right now, especially as they have the first pick. So, yeah, pretty obvious where that one's going to go. But again, we have seen other changes in the mid lane. Victor as well, now 2-10.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Pretty.
I mean, not quite forgiven levels of breaking curses with the Lucian, but pretty close.
Yeah, there was a lot of help mid lane.
Yeah. Not
to say that Cosq, as we said, Cosq very good at getting himself ahead in the mid lane.
He got caught that one time, so it wasn't him at all. It was definitely the team.
No, I just mean that, if you got a Rengar ult flash bowling somebody.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, sure.
I mean, the damage came from Cosq as well.
And it was nice to see him on a different champion as well, because we saw so much Cassiopeia from him in the split. It was like week after week. It's like, oh, I wonder what Cosq is going to bring today's grass. Oh, Cassiopeia again. Shocking.
Yeah, shocking. There was an interesting thing looking at those trends. No Hecarim, even though it has a 100% win rate. Interestingly enough, I believe it's actually Wicked has not played a game of Hecarim. They're the one team that has not played it. The other top laner that didn't play Hecarim was Xaxus when he was on Ex Nihilo.
Yeah.
So those are two top laners that didn't play Hecarim yet. Still 100% win rate for Hecarim. So until we see that change, we'll still be keeping track of that. The other high contested pick that we looked at, most contested, was Gragas. Not picked or banned in that game.
No, but
because
we have
of the jungle changes.
Yes. Yeah. Gragas changes, and also, the landscape has changed in the jungle.
Yeah.
Lots of top-tier junglers, and also like, oh, you picked Gragas, Nidalee. And then it's just like, have fun with that.
Which is interesting, because slowly the jungle changes were kind of going, okay, well, we'll take a little bit off Gragas, we'll take this off, we'll put in a new item, we'll take a little bit off, a Nidalee or Rek'Sai, take just a little bit, just shave it off, and then a new item. And then ultimately it's the massive Elise buff that kind of just changes everything. It's just like a little bit off, a little bit off. 0.6 of a second won't matter.
Nope,
Rank
not
1,
at all.
Nope.
Kind of strong.
Yeah, but I'm glad to see that at least there's a little bit more diversity from just Rek'Sai Gragas. Now it's like Rek'Sai Gragas, Nidalee, Elise.
Yeah.
Rengar. Some players playing Rengar.
Yeah,
I'm still
even
not.
some Olaf as well.
So
time to time.
I'm not sold on Rengar as a consistent pick in the jungle. However, when Rengar gets ahead like that, that is what a Rengar can do.
Yeah.
Kyrie just completely jumping on people, blowing them up, set up those individual picks into a fight. That's where Rengar really just shows his potency. But you see a lot of, I kind of think back to, and he's probably going to hate me for calling him out on this, when Impaler played Rengar on Coast, when we've seen other junglers, particularly North America, were playing a lot of Rengar. I know Crumbs was playing a lot of it. Just in general, if you didn't get ahead, it would just fall really flat.
I mean, it's a big risk
behind.
as a pick, just straight up. Yeah. If you don't pick up the early game lead, then you just kind of do nothing. You can go tank and you can just jump in and be like a CC bot, but you can't nuke someone. That's kind of the problem. Same with like Jarvan. I mean, we saw that from Huni, but like he got ahead and then he was just dunking people left and right. If you don't do that, then you just don't do a whole lot, and then the pick is not doing a lot at all. So yeah, kind of a problem. But yeah, apart from that, like that's pretty much a lot of the changes we've seen in the current meta. We did actually want to take a look at another replay from that last game, actually looking at that Rengar and Kyrie's ganks and his impact on that early game at least. So we're going to take a look at that one. But he was just generally getting the laners fed all over the place, mainly the mid lane.
So at this point, you can look. It doesn't even matter that both sides of this lane are warded right here, because Kyrie was just coming in from behind. That one, they had a ward actually in the position that Kyrie came from behind. So I didn't quite catch that the first time we saw these ganks in game, but the warding was kind of there from Team Dignitas.
Yeah.
Close to the lane at first, and then Kyrie adapted his gank paths. Really smartly done. Okay, I came in through this time last time.
Go the other way.
Gotta go the other way. Just to make sure that you can't cover it. So, I mean, Obvious wasn't able to counter gank because of how fast a Rengar gets into lane.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe I was being a touch harsh on not having the help, because it was more Kyrie reading the situation and ganking well, as opposed to Obvious as not being there, because clearly there were wards placed, but certainly it is a difficult thing to overcome, and Team Dignitas weren't able to.
No, I mean, purely from the mechanics, though, when you look at Rengar, I mean, he can gank from pretty much any angle, but he's not like an Evan. He's not stealthed all the time, so there are places to put down those wards, but yeah, denied perfectly from denial. And from that, Cosq did super well on the Victor. I mean, as you mentioned, not super hard to not do well on a Victor when Rengar's ganked your lane 5 times. But yeah, he went 7-3 on 9. That one time he got caught, but resulted in 5 kills for denial. Honestly, not too bad at all from Cosq. So I don't want to say a return to form just yet for Cosq, because we were talking about him potentially plateauing in summer, but I don't think he's necessarily needed to have been like the main carry who's going to win his one-on-one matchup all the time like he was in spring.
And it's weird because he's kind of been quiet because of that. It's like he carries, but quietly carries, even while putting up great performances.
Yeah, I mean, it was from the compositions as well. Like, they had the Cassiopeia and the Tristana, and they ran that week after week after week. And then eventually it just got to the point where it was just like, well, yeah, okay, we just need to we don't need to snowball. We just take the game, we scale up, and then we just kill you with this sheer amount of damage we have from like a late game Tristana, a late game Cassiopeia. So yeah, definitely the case. We do have good news though. Kyrie is back, so yeah, we will be getting into games somewhat shortly. But DNL did lose all of the bans as a result of taking a fair while to get into the game.
Yeah, it was real close on that one. But as you said, bans not a factor for DNL right now, and
that's pretty big.
It's a big thing, but it's also a double-edged sword on that. Because now the picks and bans strategy that Team Dignitas will have planned for, how does that adapt now? Because now you've only got 3 bans in this game, not 6. So 3 picks that are going to be strong are going to get through, and that actually really is a tough thing for Team Dignitas now to figure out and deal with. We're going to have to see how they actually manipulate their picks and bans strategy for that.
The big thing is, like, where is the priority going to be? Because they banned Irelia, Elise, and Nidalee. And we were talking about potential focusing on the jungle. We didn't see any jungle bans in from Denial. So if they go with that tactic, it's not going to change too much. But it does leave a lot open for them, potentially, to pick in this picks and bans.
Right, it really does. It really, really leaves a lot still up. You know, Team Dignitas, in the first game, the bootcamp never showed itself when you look at things, because they just got kind of outplayed individually. And at that point, it's kind of depressing, because it's like, yes, we bootcamp for this, guys. We've got this. We've practiced a lot. And, okay, mechanically, this was the problem in this game.
Yeah, I mean, top lane went even. But obviously you want more from a solo laner. Bot lane, yeah, again. But then the mid lane, yes. Mid lane was like the biggest problems that we saw in that game. So I don't know what the adaptation needs to be from Senkux. I think a lot of it's going to come from champion select and then thinking about what he needs to do for the rest of the game. Because they analyzed the situation right. It's like, we ward for the Rengar, we make sure he doesn't get ahead. And he got ahead, and then they kind of lost.
I think if they're going to allow the Rengar, or at least expect the Rengar, you have to go with a higher mobility mid laner. Or at least somebody that can stand on their own feet. The problem with Orianna in that situation is, if Rengar is on you, it's too late.
Yes.
I mean, you can ult,
but you just drag him closer to you.
And the other thing is the ult has the channel time, then it's a displacement, and he can still just continue going. I mean, maybe I could concede that something like low mobility, like a Varus, might work, because you get the ult on the Rengar because he's jumping towards you. That's where Varus wants to ult. I don't think it's a particularly great pick because it's still low mobility.
Yeah, also squishy. Probably
going to die. Probably going to die at that point. Exactly. Yeah. It's like you have to preempt the ult and try and ult into him. It's not a particularly easy thing to do anyway. Higher mobility mid laner is the only thing I can really think of, aside from obvious, just sitting in the lane and just being there.
So Senkux has played a lot this split.
Yeah, he has.
I'm thinking like what's in his pool that he could potentially pull out that has a lot of mobility. I'm thinking like an Ahri could work with the ults once he gets level 6. I mean, the Yasuo that we saw him try once, maybe...
Seen the Ezreal.
Even a Zyra to a certain extent, like with the root, with the knock-up, like once he's on you, he's going to get knocked up.
There's an interesting factor that's available in this game now, which does benefit Team Dignitas if Denial go for a similar strat. The Twisted Fate that was banned in Game 1. Okay, it's still fairly low mobility, but we know Senkux likes it. And if Denial look to early pick their mid laner again, they picked the Victor first, if you remember, all the way back from Game 1. That's the kind of pick that Senkux wants to play a Twisted Fate into. You've got the global presence. You can go in behind them, gold card a low mobility mid laner on the other side, and suddenly the whole game turns on its head.
Yeah, I'd actually like to see then Wonderwear pick up like a more carry top laner. I mean, okay, he's played a lot of tanks over the last split, like a lot of tanks, like Nautilus, Maokai, pretty much everything you can think of. But he did play the Rumble. So if you pick a Rumble and a Twisted Fate, that'd be great. Like just snowball Wonderwear, and up against Wicked as well. That could really hurt the early chances from Denial, especially if they pick up Irelia. So yeah, there's a lot to think about as we get into these picks and bans. We're only a couple minutes out. You're just waiting for the teams just to get into this one, so only a little bit more time to wait.
Yeah, not long to have to deal with us for much longer, but it's okay because the other thing is next week you can actually not have to deal with only us. You won't have just our faces bringing you the games. You'll have some more people involved because the finals next Wednesday is actually going to be live in the LCS studio next week. So that'll be live best of 5 finals. So
could be one of these teams.
You say could be as if there's any option that it won't be one of these teams.
I'm building
the wild card.
Yeah, it's just like Robin comes in.
I was going to say Robin brings a team in. Yeah, it's just whew, that would be a weird one.
Yeah.
But just
turns up by himself. Yeah.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. But no, that's something I'm really looking forward to. But I am looking forward to, obviously, tomorrow's best of 3 series, which is going to be an interesting one. See, can Kikis keep the same impact that he had on Gamers 2 from his only week in Challenger Series so far?
I'm a little scared for Mouse on that one, since I mean Kikis made short work of the team in week 5 and. Going against Mouse, who have shown that they're great against the bottom teams, but not so great against the top teams. So maybe a little bit different. But again, one of those teams could be in the grand finals from tomorrow.
You say could. It's making me anxious that something's going to happen.
Yep.
And neither team makes.
I could say will, and take away all that anxiety.
I would feel a lot safer if you said will.
James Anxiety O'Leary. It's close enough to stress. We're almost there. Almost, I promise. Almost in Champions Select.
We could be.
We could be.
We could be in Champions Select now.
It's on its way.
It's on its way.
Soon
It is going to be here soon. I'm trying to think of like how does the no bans impact, because teams have been vocal when they've not been when other teams don't have bans, in that it does make it more difficult for both teams. It's not just a hindrance to the team with no bans. Obviously, it has a greater effect, especially on the fact that, in some sense now, blue side, you get stronger first pick in theory with no bans available. Red side, you then get 2 of the picks that likely would have been banned away. Remains to be seen. Yeah,
I mean, it depends on your pick and ban strategy as well. If there's like the OP picks in the meta, then you get those 2. But if you're looking for a very specific comp, then,
so it was
change.
In Game 1, Twisted Fate, Janna, Fizz were banned away by Denial. So those 3 going to be available. Will we see the Wonderwear on Fizz? Second most played champion and ranked on his main account.
I'd like to see it, especially if they bring the Twisted Fate.
Would be some essence of the carry that you were talking about. I think that would be a very solid setup for Team Dignitas, and God knows they need a solid setup in this game, because they are 1 game away from having the 50-50 third place game for promotion spot or just staying in Challenger. Yeah,
if they take third, they will be playing against one of the teams tomorrow, of course. Whichever team it is, it could be very difficult. Also, like the stress on a player at that point, when you're thinking about, if we lose this best of 3, we're done for Challenger for this bit. We have to look towards the next one, especially from going from the very top of Challenger. It's difficult to think about, but that's still a game away.
It is still a game away. But if you are on Team Dignitas and you do end up in that situation, looking at the last time Team Dignitas played either Gamers 2 or MOUZ, you've got to hope MOUZ are the losers tomorrow if you take last game's results into account. Because Team Dignitas kind of swept MOUZ aside. Gamers 2 crushed Team Dignitas. So if they have to face Gamers 2 again anywhere other than the finals, that's not a good sign.
No. It would be very, very difficult to recover from that. And it would be very surprising even to see GT2 come out of there. But guess what? We're into Champion Select. Let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
Remember, Denial do not have any bans, so they'll be letting that time out. So there's actually another 17 seconds until we technically get to Champion Select. But we are going to look at these bans from Dignitas. Right, we've talked about jungle bans, the potential Irelia. Irelia, Elise, and Nili as a refresher were the bans coming out in from Dignitas. What will they go this time?
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Denial's bans. I was going to be like, no,
they didn't.
There's
you insane?
No bans for Denial here.
Yeah.
What do they go? I think Team Dignitas go with the Elise. I mean, you have to. The Nidalee probably. I actually think they should just stick with the same bans. Like Irelia, Nidalee, Elise would make so much sense.
So what did they do about the Rengar?
I think you just deal with it by picking something more mobile.
Okay.
Or something that can at least like. I don't even want to say like land a stun, because then you're playing, then you're coin flip.
I mean, with Twisted Fate, it's just like, well, I'm going to deal with this by not being in my lane. I'm out in a different lane and ganking.
which isn't particularly too much of a problem. Like, it's still low mobility, but... Okay, Elise off the table. That's to be expected. I mean,
it didn't blow anyone out of the water.
If there was anything we could have been certain of in the last 30 minutes,
it was definitely Elise
that was the one
coming out. Yeah. All right. Second ban will be going away from Denial. What's it going to be from Dignitas? Nidalee and Irelia were the last two. It's going to be the Nidalee again.
Okay, makes sense.
Anticipation is growing. What's the final ban going to be from Dignitas?
It's just going to be something. They're just going to ban something random. They'll ban Orianna so that they don't have Senko play it again. That's a little bad-mannered. I'm sorry.
This is in from Wonderways. It's like my team.
A team.
Mid lane.
Oh dear. So then the question remains: what did Denial go with first? Do they pick the Victor away in the first pick when it comes around to them? Do they look for a jungle pick to start things out? Do they look for an Irelia if it's available? It remains to be seen with the ban. There's a lot. There's a lot that is on the cards with 3 extra champions available. Okay, Dig stick with the same bans. That makes sense.
Guys. Yeah. So they just they banned the same as game 1. So is it going to be the first pick Rengar? Because Rengar was the last pick in from Denial last game. Are they that confident that it was the Rengar that brought them the win?
I don't think you need to first pick Rengar here. Like, I don't think there's really any rush because you know Obvious isn't likely to play Rengar. He's shown no affinity for it, and there are other junglers available. They went Sivir Rek'Sai here last time around. Both are available again should they want to go for it, if they do want to stick with the same picks and ban strategy, just like Denial.
Yep, it's true. Okay, all right, we're going to have the Victor as the first pick in here. Just like the first game, I'll be going on to Cos Q, and now we just need to see the response from Dignitas. Again, Victor, great as a first pick in the mid lane, since it's pretty difficult to straight up counter a Vix. He's pretty safe into most matchups. Sivir and Rek'Sai, literally the first game all over again in the same order.
Same picks here in the same order as you said. If that was the case, Braum Corki would be the next 2 out from Denial, but I don't know whether there'll be in any rush to lock those in. They could. I mean, the first game worked out very well for them with executing their composition. Now that the Rek'Sai has been locked in, this was the same kind of setup that they were looking for the Rengar, and they do lock it in for Denial. That Rengar being locked is exactly the same, at least 5 champions that we've seen right now. Little different order.
Yeah, Braum was brought up again in the same rotation. Rengar is the only change. Last time they picked the Corki. I would be a little surprised if DNL brought in a different AD carry, because it's just been Corki for the last couple of weeks. But again, Warlight has way more in his arsenal that he can bring out.
Played a lot of Tristana.
Yes, it was like 5 weeks in a row.
We've basically seen him play Corki, Tristana, and Kog'Maw, like the 4 champions he's played. In fact, Sivir and Kalista as well on top of them. So he has played a lot. Yeah.
Everything meta. Fantastic.
Numbers have gone.
So, Dignitas, what have you got? Are you going to change up your strategy, or are you just going to do the same sort of thing? They were definitely lacking for damage last game, but that's also because they were all so far behind they had no damage.
So they're counter-picking top again. At this point, you pick your mid lane here. Twisted Fate is available for Team Dignitas should they look to be going for it. It is a matchup that we've seen a lot. We've seen the Varus as well.
Curveball.
And now we're seeing the Gangplank.
All right. Pretty different. We did see some Gangplank before. We've actually seen it by Cabochard in the summer split, but that was old Gangplank. That was AP Runeglaive Gangplank.
Right.
This is new Gangplank, which we've never seen ever anywhere in the world.
We have not had an opportunity because he wasn't really enabled until this patch.
Correct. And then he was dead.
He's back from the dead. We'll see whether he uses the ghost skin. That is kind of problematic. You know, there was a lot of discussion from specifically Wicked, this is kind of ironic that this is happening in this game, about the fact that teams on live weren't able to play with Gangplank, but clearly Wonderware feels like he put enough games in before Gangplank was disabled to actually play it. So I am looking forward to seeing how new Gangplank with the rework does. Similar style of support for Nisbet with that Alistar tank support. It didn't particularly work out with the Nautilus in game 1. Now he's going to take less damage now with that Unbreakable Will from Alistar.
Yeah, they have a lot of ways to actually get out of CC. Both Alistar and Gangplank have the oranges and also the Unbreakable Will. That's going to be the Kog'Maw, so we were talking about different picks from the AD carry. This is something he's picked up before. Interesting that he'll pick it up now, and now we do have the Rumble for Wicked again.
Again? he picks it into the Gangplank, and this is Wonderware. I assume it's going to Wonderware, saying, I'm confident with this pick into whatever. Very similar to what Kabashad did. Did he just blind pick this?
Yeah.
I mean, they had the opportunity to last pick top lane, and this is a second oddball pick. The first was Tahm Kench. Now we've got Gangplank coming out from Wonderware. They didn't even need to counterpick mid lane at this point.
Yeah, we'll see what Senkux does, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you don't look at anything at all. It's like, okay, we give Senkux our counterpick because it's Senkux. And it's going to be Xerath. It's actually, yeah, okay, Xerath for the mid lane.
I really dislike this.
Okay, why is that, Stress?
Because there were changes made to Xerath to do with his stun, the Shocking Orb, which meant that the whole reason that we lowered the cooldown on Shocking Orb was to prevent Xerath from ulting point-blank enemies in front of him and having them stunned for days. The whole reason was that you have to preemptively stun. And against a Rengar, that is difficult to do. We talked about like the 50-50 with the Varasult. Okay, Xerath is going to be able to do it more frequently, but Rengar's only going to be there a couple of times. If you miss that Shocking Orb, you are extremely low mobility.
Yeah, I agree. It's all on the Shocking Orb, essentially, in the mid lane. And we know that Kairi probably wants to go mid lane in this game.
Right.
So.
However, the benefits of Xerath here is you get to sit further back in the lane. Theoretically, Senkux should not be in a position to get Rengar ulted with the lockdown. So, in theory, it can still work. But I am not a fan looking at Game 1's performance, looking now to Game 2 for the same setup. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, it's definitely not what we talked about. We were looking at different opportunities and different ways that they could potentially play this out. But Xerath is a different one. It's been a while since we've seen a Xerath for sure. But looking at the rest of the compositions, Rek'Sai Gangplank is the also new one, the first Gangplank we've seen in competitive. Sivir and Alistar is pretty much the mainstay of a lot of team compositions that we see. Sivir with the movement speed, Alistar just being Alistar.
Being Alistar.
A state of being Alistar. Find your zone.
Find your zone and then headbutt pulverize it into the ground. I'm looking forward to seeing the Gangplank. Hesitant on the Xerath. Not saying it's a bad pick, just think it's a very risky one. As you said, not one we see all that often. We do, however, see it by certain players. Gang by Mom being the biggest proponent of Xerath over in LCK. Yeah, so we see him from time to time by players that have an affinity for Xerath, but I've never really thought of Senkux as a Xerath player. I mean, I know he's used to play a lot of Syndra, he used to play a lot of Assassins. Now he wants to play incredibly safe, but it doesn't particularly fit the meta. It's great wave clear, bits of poke in here and there, but there are champions that have shown to be better at doing it.
Yeah, doesn't even want the Azir as well after those changes, so that's the other big one.
Basically the same composition coming out from DNL. They're going to make the same plays, looking for the teleport plays, looking to team fight. Over on the other side of Team Dignitas, I'm hesitant to say much until we see how well Gangplank can fare in the 1v1 against the Rumble, but generally they're looking to kind of wave clear a heck of a lot in this game.
All right, guys, hop on Twitter, open a new tab, use those hashtags DNLWin and DEUWin, and tweet at us at LOL Esports and tell us what you think. Who's going to win this game as we get into the second game? Team Dignitas are one loss down in this one. DNL just need to win this game, and they will advance to the grand finals.
They will. It's about time. It's about time, Pulse.
Almost.
I'm getting very excited to get into this game now.
And we're just about to get into it, Stress. Let's go. Okay, game 2 in this best of 3. DNL Esports up against Team Dignitas EU. Thank you for waiting, guys. Thank you for sticking with us. We're finally into this one. Everyone has bought their items. Everyone is going to jump up the spawn pad and then get into the rift. And Gangplank has started with the Crystalline Flask and the free potions, so going for this more conservative start up against Wicked, who has opted towards the Duran Shield.
So, one thing about 514 Gangplank and not 515 Gangplank, I assume, after you know, the reworked Gangplank came out, is you know, at this point I'm expecting Wonderware to be able to do quite a lot of damage because he's not armless.
Oh man, 10 out of 10. Would listen to it again. Kairi there, is doing a dance battle with Obvious. Heaver and Nisbet is going to be walking some circles.
Alistar, I have found you should meet.
Huh.
Well then.
Didn't know he said that, Alistair. Nice. Good stuff. Wicked charging up his danger zone using his Flame Spitter. If you are level 1 and you put a point into Flame Spitter, you can just keep spamming it and you get like 10 at a time. And eventually you can get into your danger zone, which is actually really important for your level 1. Just if you get into a trade, it's a lot of extra damage.
That's the thing is, when you go to play Rumble, anybody that doesn't play a lot of top lane, people are like, great, Rumble, I just got to ult. It'll be great.
Yep.
That's all I've got to do in this situation. No,
how wrong you are.
You've got to balance everything. It's like you basically got the levers in front of you and the buttons to hold everything at the right place and then kind of combo with all of the right level of heat. But on this scenario, in this game, how will Team Dignitas circumvent the opening game from Kyrie here? We saw the early Sightstone last game from Obvious. It worked until Kyrie got to level 6. Kyrie power farmed his way to level 6 and just ganked with his ult.
So if you look at this setup, bot lane, you're probably not going to get a gank off at level 6 from Kyrie because Nisbet will just knock you away with a headbutt. Kobe's got the spell shield and a bunch of summoners. Top lane has oranges. Jungle, probably not going to be ganked. Mid lane is the only place that Kyrie is going to be looking for a gank, and we saw that last game, and it's Zera. Senkux just has to play defensive, and in theory, you've mitigated Rengar's presence in the game post-6.
In theory, and honestly, we heard Senkux, or saw Senkux on Twitter, if you were checking out your social media during the break or the downtime. As we said, he knows there were mistakes in the first game, and said they're not going to happen again. They better not happen again on a Xerath, because if they do, this game may end even faster at this point. But Xerath is the kind of champion that you can sit back, play more defensive, and look to get a lead from there. Nisbet gets Woolite into the wall.
Yeah, knocks him up as well. Hiva will respond with some auto attacks, gets the concussive blows down to punish the cow. Kobe will put out the auto attacks as well, but fairly even trade down in the bottom lane after that engage. Mid lane though, Q and Senkux again just going even. Don't expect too much explosive action from a Victor. Xerath lane outside of the jungler intervention. Obvious was the first one into the top river to secure that crab, so already he'll be blocking off the gank route for Kyrie if he goes up and around the mid lane.
You can see already the new Gangplank is Special Forces Gangplank in this case. Yeah. With the barrels now on his E rather than raise morale. Those barrels have 3 health bars on them that tick down to 1, and if you parlay the barrel while it's on 1 health, it will explode and chain with any other barrels that are next to it. They deal a significant amount of damage as well. So do not underestimate that. And Wicked's going to have trouble actually proccing them as well. You can kill them as an enemy. You just hit it while it's on 1 health and it will die. Gives you a little bit of gold.
10 gold.
But to actually stand in the barrel for it to explode as a melee range champion like Rumble is tough. That was...
Obvious flash, I think.
Nope. Obvious held his flash.
Cosq flashed.
Cosq flashed out on that mid lane, but certainly we'll have to watch how Wonderware's early presence sits in this game.
Yeah, Wicked is actually just going to use his kill combo, jump straight on top of Wonderware. He flashes forwards, gets another harpoon on him for the slow, turns around, gets the Flame Spitter as well. Wonderware is incredibly low in this trade. He will be getting back to his turret, both flashes exchanged, and he'll have to go back to base.
He's going to have to go back to base. He did accrue a fairly significant lead to begin this one off, but Wonderware taking too much damage from the all-in from Wicked. That might be a sign of things to come. Because if that happens, an equalizer is available. Wonderware is going to really struggle to get himself away. Oranges don't really roast very well. They kind of tend to melt. At this point, Team Dignitas giving a blue buff over to Senkux early on, once again. It's proved to be a good strategy at the beginning of last game until Senkux then got obliterated by Kyrie once his ultimate came up.
Yeah, it's good if you don't donate it to the opposing jungler. But in the top lane, Wonderware, his return to lane. He actually used his teleport to do that one. Wicked used it early on. There goes the pink ward, who will be removing that one. Probably not going to be too many ganks from Obvious in the top lane, as Wonderware is constantly pushing in this wave, probably where he wants it as well. Can actually harass underneath the turret using Parlay. Mid lane, going back. Senkux is going back right now. Kozku's already done so. Just picked up the Doran's Ring and a couple wards, consumables. We'll be getting back into this.
Obvious heading to the top lane. I realize I said oranges melt. I don't think they do. I've never roasted an orange, actually, thinking about it.
I know, cooked oranges are pretty good, man.
Right, but I've never personally roasted one, so I don't know what I'm going with.
Roast it with like a roast chicken, dude. It's like a thing.
Chicken, yeah, okay. Fair enough. I mean, it's a little bit weird. It's not quite my culinary taste.
Okay.
Then
Probably
again, I don't pretend to be Ainsley Harriott or anything like this. So, you know, away from the culinary show, back on to Summoner's Rift at this point. There's a lot of food-related champions with Wonderwear. Picks Tom Kench, picks Gangplank.
Ready, steady, shoot a parlay. At Wicked in the top lane.
He's got to respect it, because now he's level 6 against Wicked. And Wicked, once he gets his power up, or his heat up, will be able to drop that equalizer, and then Wonderwear has to kind of just deal with the equalizer. I'm interested to see what exactly Wonderwear goes for with regards to the upgraded ultimate. That's the other thing, is every time Gangplank parlays a minion and gets a kill with it, you actually get another form of currency, and you can use that to upgrade the ultimate to do different things.
The Silver Serpents, and you can upgrade it to a bunch of different things. So basically the E was changed, so it's now Powder Keg. That ultimate was just used to clear out the minion wave. But yeah, so he has 3 different upgrades. He has Death's Daughter, which does more damage in the epicenter of the ultimate. The Raised Morale, which is essentially a replacement for his E, so everyone, all of his allies will be sped up in while in the ultimate. And then Fire at Will, which is 6 additional waves over the duration, so it just fires faster and does more damage in an AoE.
So you can see the vision control coming out from DNL on the bottom side of the river of mid lane. You can also see how far back Senkux is sitting in the lane as well, knowing that it's almost time for Kyrie to be level 6. They did read he's level 5 off the ward. And now CosQ is having a lot of trouble pressuring this. No flash still available on CosQ, and now they get the heal as well. This bottom lane, the big trade's happening.
Yeah, Nisbet doesn't yet have his ultimate, and he's getting chunked down by Warlock. That has to be the heal used by Kobby, so that's been exhausted in this bottom lane. Hiva still responding with the damage. The Winter's Bite was not actually spell shielded there out by Kobby. And Wicked will take this time in the top lane to clear away this pink ward while Wonderwear went back to base. So it was Obvious was not defending that one, so that is a lot of gold down the drain.
It is, and you know, this top matchup where we saw the equalizer come out from Wicked already, just because purely his teleport was up and he hadn't been back to base yet. So he goes back, picks up the Sorcerer's Shoes, knows that Wonderwear now has to run back to lane. I believe Wonderwear used his ult as well, very similarly. Either that or the pattern is... Yeah, okay, no, he did use his ult. It was kind of blending in with the cooldown timer. But Obvious is looking to gank top lane. This isn't something we see all that much, and we know there's a ward there, so this is a tough gank here, but there's the parlay onto the barrels.
Oh, it's nice with the chain reaction. Obvious now coming in with the Burrow. Wicked pops the ultimate, but that's a lot of damage coming out from both of these 2 laners. And Obvious was dropped very low along with Wonderwear, but they will get out. Kari now heading into the top lane, jumps in, gets the auto-attacks down in with the savagery, and picks up the kill onto Wonderwear. So that actually turns into a 1-for-1, and the assist went over to Wicked as it was still within the timer.
Nice change up of the pace of the game from Kyrie. Knows that he can come top, look for the counter gank. A little bit late on the actual gank to save Wicked's life, but knew that if Wonderwear stuck around to try and farm out the lane, it was a fairly easy kill. And you can see that the priority around mid lane has dropped significantly from Denial. Now that they're not able to get easily onto Senkux, it's far, far harder for Kyrie to snowball that mid lane, so he's going to look for top lane instead. That time it was the kill and the assist going over to Kyrie, and the assist going over to Wicked at this point. So it is a fairly even game when it comes to the kills. Team Dignitas do have a lead in the farm stemming from top lane.
Yeah, Wonderwear placing down more Powder Kegs. We'll be trying to use those to farm as many minions as possible, as the parlay will give you the extra gold on everything that the Powder Keg kills.
In fact, it's the first blood gold, and bottom lane is behind by roughly the same amount the top lane is ahead. So the game is fairly even on the farm across the board. So how will Wicked deal with this barrel? He's cut off, he knows he can't go. Look at the damage already.
Yeah, the crit was quite a lot of damage. Wicked takes another parlay as well. Very difficult from Wicked. I mean, there's no real counterplay to being parlayed in the face when you're melee range.
No.
Senkux, to take that blue buff, will be not using the Arcane, of course. Is currently slightly behind in the farm, but as the minion wave resolves, as it hits the turret, then he'll be equal. Is looking towards the Fiends and Holy Grail, so not too much of a change there. In jungle, Obvious has gone for the Warrior enchant on Rek'Sai, which is different from the first game. He went straight into the Cinderhulk and was very much looking for the vision using the Sightstone. So it's interesting that he's going for a more damage-orientated build this time around when he has more damage on the team.
I think this means, for obvious, that he can actually get himself involved rather than warding and relying on his laners to play a safer game. His laners just are naturally going to play a safer game from mid lane with this Xerath sitting further back. So I actually like the adaptation. Ooh, those barrels deal a lot of damage. I like the way that Wonderwear comboed that.
Yeah.
Gives himself the easier barrel to explode in the bush because he knows Rumble can't clear it out, and puts a full health barrel in front of the Rumble to make it chain. The interesting things about the barrel, there are another couple of factors onto it. There's a lot of things with the barrels. When you explode a keg with Parley, everything killed by the keg applies Parley's effects for the additional gold. That's the Braum ultimate in the bottom lane alongside it.
Yeah, Glacial Fissure comes up, waiting for the ultimate to wear off from Nisbet so they can jump in here. Gets the auto attack damage and also the Void Ooze. Woolite picks up that kill, and also Kyrie gets the assist as well. And that was just a nice gank onto the bottom lane, onto Nisbet.
Again, no focus on mid lane. Kyrie is going elsewhere in this game to get his impact. And, you know, again, Denial, they found themselves ahead just after that 10-minute mark when it comes to some of their lanes. Wicked was behind, and overall the team was slightly behind as well. But bottom lane was going well for Denial. Kyrie is going to stick around and make sure they can push onto that turret. But over on the top side, Jungler of Obvious is sitting on a ward himself, so not going to be caught out by that. And that is Denial. Again, just overall a net gain for Denial.
Early game lead here, 2-1 plus that tower, denying as many minions as they can in the bottom lane up against Kobe before they finish off this turret. And maybe even one more minion, not quite. Okay, so Kobe will be hurting a little from that. It's actually 20 CS that Woolite has over in the bottom lane. We were talking about this before in game 1, how Woolite generally has a pretty good early game, generally has a pretty good mid game as well. Likewise, the rest of the team does so. Heaver as well. Is usually how they give up those advantages, but this time, again, they get this advantage. In the top lane, Wicked will just pop the ultimate, a response by using the ultimate from Wonderwear, but Wicked's just going to walk into the bush, has the overheat damage, has the minion wave, and the ultimate as well. While you're fighting in that, you're constantly taking damage, and Wonderwear with the outplay on the gangplank.
Oh man, that was sick, that flash away. Just kind of, the orange baited Wicked into thinking he could take the trade. Then he just hammered the potions and the flask and just made sure that everything was ticking to keep himself alive. Nice flash away as well. That is the strength of the new Gangplank. If you do get hit by the barrels, by the ultimate as well, there is a lot of damage in Gangplank's kit. However, it is a tricky ask to get the barrels down, get the damage down. And Wonderwear certainly got it that time.
Yeah, that was really well played.
Really well played.
Nicely playing around the cannon barrage. Kyrie just making sure there's no one around while he takes his red buff. He'll be taking that one away. Okay, so mid lane, slight advantage. Bot lane, slight advantage as well for Denial. Top lane is the only one that's going the way of Wonderwear. Even trying to get the kill onto the Gromp there. Cubby was blocking it. It's actually interesting to see Wonderwear on a not carry, or a not tank rather, on a carry. Actually going to shut up about that as we do have this engage here. Kobe using the ultimate on the hunt. The rest of the team is right behind him. Kyrie has already stealthed up, so they get his ultimate. And the ultimates are raining down in from Woolite as well. But that's actually pretty important. Burning Kyrie's ultimate in this early game, especially how many kills it was getting him both early on in this game and last game.
And this is something we didn't see Team Dignitas doing in the first game. They were not pressuring those early fights. They weren't looking to burn the ultimate from the Rengar earlier on. So very, very different playstyle coming out from Team Dignitas. And one thing we haven't touched on yet is, we've already spoken about the range on mid lane, but look at the range in general that Team Dignitas will be putting between the front line of Team Dignitas and the back line. Xerath is going to try and use that Rise of the Arcane from way far behind. Gangplank will be able to ult in and get damage done from a global perspective. So Team Dignitas right now are looking to just force Denial into these fights where at the front line for Team Dignitas he's using the Sivir ultimate to go in. The Alistair, the Rek'Sai.
Wow,
Wonderwear is just going to try and trade with people and completely blow them up.
That was insane coming out from Wonderwear. The crit from the parlay and just Yeah, Swag walks out of there with the oranges, just eating oranges all the way to the bank. Very nice. Has the Triforce as well, so that was actually a very big spike in damage, but Wicked probably thought he was okay because he's sitting on his own giant power spike with the Haunting Guys and the Sork Boots.
The overall trade is the tower and the kill in the top lane for Wonderwear for the first dragon in the game coming from Denial. Denial did manage to secure that at the same time. However, I prefer this trade going in favor of Team Dignitas. I mean, at this point, Rumble already can't deal with Gangplank. So who will deal with Gangplank? I'm interested to see where he continues to build here, what in fact that pickaxe is going into. There are a lot of options available to see what he's picking up, but he is going to be real difficult to actually get away from and just sit in a solo lane. I really like this Gangplank pick.
Yeah, and this is actually very nice getting those advantages in that top lane as well as the other lanes basically going mostly even apart from the bot lane. Because last time Dignitas weren't able to contest any of the future dragons. This one went away from them, of course, because of the positioning, but the following ones they can contest. Unlike last game where they were so far behind, contesting them would result in a 5-0.
And the reason that this game Team Dignitas are able to just completely change up their style is the stat line of mid lane, and CosQ's gone completely under tower.
Flash, knock up, knock back, parlay, dead.
Certainly was no parlay set up between
no.
the Team Dignitas lineup and Wonderway. It's a very ironic name for an ability, actually. If Pirates of the Caribbean taught me anything, parlay is meant to mean that you don't take any kind of fights and pirate rules. But then again, I guess Pirates of the Caribbean wasn't exactly the most factual of films.
Probably not.
What with the the whole zombies thing and Davy Jones.
There was a lot that didn't make sense, but there's a lot that makes sense in this game from Dignitas' game plan with the Gangplank pick.
Yeah.
Free one-on-one.
And the real stat line to highlight compared to the first game, 0-0-1 on Senkux, hasn't been out of position in this game at all. Has never been in a position to be out of position, and Kyrie has never been able to get
to put him out of position
to capitalize on the position that he was out of.
Now he's in a good position. Yeah, 0-1-1. That's actually what he wanted to be last game as Orianna.
Yeah.
Yeah, just this nice stat line. Has a lot of farm. 180, by the way, at 18 minutes is a lot. He's been farming pretty much every minion in his wave, including probably jungle camps as well. 195, however, from CosQ. All they have been doing in mid lane is farming as optimally as possible.
I mean, I wouldn't expect too much more from Xerath into a Victor lane. Top lane, however, there is a big difference. Just because of the added pressure that Gangplank has been able to have in the 1v1. You can see the top lane's actually fairly neutralized right now by the fact that it's pushing towards Team Dignitas. Means that Rumble can't go up there, can't absorb any farm. And if Denial can't do anything with that lane without sending anybody up there until it pushes into tower and then pushes back away from them, that means they have to focus elsewhere. There's no dragon on the map, and bot lane is in a fairly similar position, pushing away from Denial. Somebody's going to clear that out for Team Dignitas, but right now all Denial are doing is just sitting around in mid lane, not doing too much.
Yeah, and Digger just looking to soften them up. I was actually thinking they were going to go for a 5-man push there because Senkux used his ultimate to try and put some damage down. Was expecting Wonderwear to follow up with his own and then for them to push in, but as it stands, the buffs are spawns, and obviously it's going to take us away, and everyone's going to go back to lane. So, yeah, Senkux just using his ultimate for harassment then more than anything, and CosQ will mop up the minion wave. So 4-2 right now. Dignitas have this early lead in terms of gold. First dragon went over to Denial. Kyrie's waiting in the wings as well, but Dragon's Dragon's going to be spawning in just under 2 minutes. Baron as well in 10, but neither of these teams are going to contest that really. Just before we actually saw Wonderwear parlay a barrel, but it wasn't armed correctly, so we just shot it and nothing happened.
Just apparently films aren't right. If you shoot a barrel like that, they don't all explode.
You got to check its health bar first.
That would make things really weird in films. But at that point, I didn't actually... the range on the barrels is fairly large. You saw him actually check the bush that Kyrie was sitting in as well. So significant range on those barrels to put him down. Make sure you keep yourself safe. Kyrie is trying to get to mid lane, but look how far this wave's going to get cleared from. Oh, Senkux don't step forward. He's fine.
Actually, odd timing by Kyrie. The minion wave was cleared out.
Senkox
were going back, and Senkox goes to ward, so this actually might work out. Turns around, gets the shocking orb down onto Kozgu, follows up as well with the death ray on the ultimate coming in. So eventually it did work out, and both summoners burnt from Senkox. The team just wasn't reacting fast enough.
At the very last second before it expires, Kyrie is able to just get the jump on. That was pretty fortunate that Senkox moved to the side to ward. A little bit, I don't want to say greedy, because that in theory should have been fairly safe considering it just pushed the wave out, but just the unfortunate timing from Senkox looking toward here. Ultimate has been used by Gangplank. That will clear out the wave in the top lane. And you can see that Team Dignitas kind of just dance around in the shells.
Yeah. Senkox is like, the one time I ward, the one time Kyrie's already stealthed up. But yeah, that was really unlucky. Actually unlucky in that scenario. Wicked will be backing off with the rest of his team, trying to get this mid lane pushed down. Senkox is only now coming in from base. Obvious jumps over the wall. Actually, he might be able to go out with this minion wave. Copy's there as well with the ricochet, so yeah, they get it down. Top lane, Nisbet is there to assist Wonderwear. Wonderwear does not have his ultimate, but they should be able to get it with the powder keg. Nisbet also gets the knock-up and the knock back onto Heaver into the turret. He'll be jumping away using Stand Behind Me. But Nisbet has used his own ultimate, and Woolite doesn't really have the damage to chunk through. Unbreakable Will gets him with the last living artillery, and Wonderwear escapes with his life as well. So a nice 1-0 using the teleport. Mid lane, no carry, comes in with the bowler, locks him down. It's a lot of damage coming in from the death ray. The equalizer as well comes out with the right of the arcane. But it isn't enough to secure a return kill. So that's a one-on-one all over the map. But while all that was happening, Obvious was taking the dragon. So all in all, not just yet, because Woolite is pushing the top lane. It should be an advantage for Dignitas. If this tower falls down, and it will be pretty much equal.
Oh, Woolite's going to have to back away with that minion wave. Gangplank's also coming up as well. Okay, he sticks around and gets it. Okay, he managed to drop the aggro at that point. Obvious being on Dragon at that point probably should have been a tell for Senkox not to fight mid lane. They didn't know where Kyrie was. So a little bit of a weird decision creeping back in to the Team Dignitas setup here. Weird individual plays. But one thing that you saw up in the top lane, one of the weaknesses of Gangplank is against ranged champions. Because if you don't have to stand in the barrel to kill it, you're not going to get damaged by it, and you're just going to auto-attack it from a range. However, ooh, that is a lot of damage if you can't kill it.
Brutal.
Man, that hurts. It looks like he's going Infinity Edge. This is full crit Gangplank.
Oh, the return the crit plank.
I prefer it to Runeglaive, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Wonderwear's just taking a couple tower shots here. Should be able to take this tower. One more auto attack. Right of the arcane though. Dancing shoes. Does Heaver have them? The last one doesn't quite land. Plus the ultimate. Oh, boomerang blade as well. But the heal came out from Woolite. Very clutch there. Saw the fan vote actually going this time in favor of Denial after that first game. So close to turncoat.
I can't...
so fast.
I was going to say so close. It already happened.
Could
have happened. I mean, I'm not surprised.
No.
After how the first game went. However, Team Dignitas are looking a lot sharper in this game. A nice play onto the mid lane. All stems from just that barrel exploding onto Heaver and the pressure being put on, forcing out summoners on the retreat coming from Denial. So it looks like if this trend continues in this game, looks like we may be heading for a third game. But there's still a long time here. We'll see whether Denial can manage to group effectively. That time, no real explosion coming out from Heaver. Here comes the equalizer.
Yeah, the chair doesn't connect with Nisbet, and Woolite's trying to get all of these extra auto attacks onto the turret while the minion wave dissipates. It's actually an interesting interaction with Heaver where you can put up the shield in front of the barrel and partly hits it so it doesn't explode. So if you can get that down perfectly, that's a lot of damage mitigated onto his team. Yeah, mid-turret will be given up and conceded here by Dig. This is smart.
And the reason is that not only is it fairly low health, but the ultimates are not up for Team Dignitas yet. Senkox's has just come up, but the Gangplank ult is not available
pretty key
at this point in time. So Kyrie will clear out a pink himself. Everybody from Dig kind of just splits up across the map. And that is the end of that.
That's the end of that. I actually wonder what Gangplank upgraded on his ultimate. I don't think has he spent his coins yet?
How many coins? He has 43. I believe it's 50 you need, right, to upgrade?
You need a lot, I think.
I think it's 50. I must admit, I haven't Oh, Obvious has been caught.
Yeah, he's thinking too much about the Silver Serpents. He's going to be maybe caught out. Well, Kyrie is the one to actually die there. Wicked jumping after him, gets the kill combo down, punches him with the overheat damage. But raining from the sky on the right of the Arcane blast coming in from Senkux. Jumps over the wall with Nisbet. Just get the knock back, but not the knock up. So he just kind of headbutted Hiva to safety there. Boomerang Blade also connects onto him, but the Powder Keg wasn't quite in range. Wonderwell will just punch that one for good measure. So exchange on the junglers for a 1-for-1.
Yeah, 1-for-1, as you said, in the jungle. It's actually 500. The client...
Bit of a difference.
Well, the client only has two significant figures on the icon. So it says 46 here, but it's actually 460 he's got right now. So it's 500 to upgrade. So he's not that far away.
That's like
that would be horrible.
Really badly. Yeah.
Man, you get the 200-minute gangplank. That's where really you get all 3 upgrades. He does blow people up. Yeah. No, that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
It's actually interesting how long it takes a gangplank to get those Silver Serpents, though, because we're 26 minutes in, almost 27 minutes. He's been farming really well, 235, and we've seen a lot of minions be killed by the Parley as well.
So that's the second time that we've seen that interaction from Hiva, which is that 2 barrels go down. Parley comes in, blows up the first barrel, it chains to the second, but Unbreakable prevents the damage even from the barrel explosion, by the looks of it. It's not an interaction I have any experience with, because my time playing Gangplank and Brawl has been very limited over the last week or so. So that's an interesting one that we're kind of seeing here, is that you can reduce so much of the damage just by using that Unbreakable. However, that does mean Unbreakable is not going to be available for any subsequent abilities. So
but realistically, what abilities is he going to block? Because Senkux's Arcana Pulse is going to go through. Shocking Orb, okay.
Yep.
Right over the Arcane is just going to fly over.
Boomerang, if it's particularly
But the biggest thing is going to be the Parley damage and the Powder Kegs coming in from Wonderwear.
I got distracted by Gangplank shouting things at this point. Team Dignitas,
abuse.
Even every time the Unbreakable goes up, he's like, shouting, hurling abuse from the deck. Here, okay, so he's upgraded.
Death's Daughter.
Death's Daughter.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage onto Kotsku. Comes in with the Arcano Pulse as well. Hiva does get the shield up, but Kyrie obliterates Kobe. He's going to go for a different target. He immediately flashes out. The Shocking Orb will follow him down. Arcano Pulse gets the return damage, but now Nisbet comes in with a 2-man knockup. He doesn't have his ultimate, however. Yes, he does. He already popped it. And Wicked now goes onto the front lines, but he's going to get caught out here. Wonderwear just needs the auto attack. He gets him with the Parley, but the Voidooz comes down from Warline, will blast him down with the Living Artillery. That turns in for a 2-for-2 overall. The bot lane exchanged for Kotsku and Wicked.
Woolite at this point has so much damage that he can actually sit here and again just clears the barrel out. There is no real danger. Woolite's got to be careful the Shocking Orb doesn't catch him astray and then follow up by a crit coming from Wonderwear, so he does have to back off. But that is Dragon going to go over to Denial, so although Denial are still behind, they are not out of this one by any stretch of the imagination. Senkux may look to try and steal, but he's going to die if he ends up going in.
Oh, gets the flash though from Hiva, just off screen. We do see Wonderwear heading forwards here. Doesn't quite get in range. Good bowler in from Kyrie. So after all of that, the Dragon did go over to Denial after that scrappy back and forth. We're actually going to see a replay of that last fight. Nisbet with this engage and also the ultimate coming in.
Boom. Lots of damage onto Kotsku at this point. But, you know, you look at where Woolite is on the map. And Denial managed to turn this fight around. Kyrie, really nice jump back out, but Woolite has just got to this fight here, and now he turns the damage down onto Obvious. Obvious at this point only really had the locket, so no real armor to speak of. So the Kog'Maw is going to shred right the way through that. And then Team Dignitas are forced to run. They can't contend with the amount of damage Woolite is able to put out because the barrels just simply are not living long enough.
Yeah, Wonderwear as well, the ultimate, that was just all used on Kotsku. There's a lot of ultimates, and now Wonderwear comes in and is being jumped on by Kyrie. Actually trading back and forth actually pretty well in this one. Obviously might have enough damage to get this return kill. Doesn't have the flash, doesn't have the tunnel. I don't think he can make it in, and he doesn't in fact. Wonderwear, a little slow on the orange eating, but yeah, will be taken out there for a 1-0. Kyrie was so close to falling.
He needs to go to that orange eating class.
Is that a thing? I bet it's a thing. Of course it's a thing.
Just eat the damn orange.
Just do it!
There's always time for Simpsons quotes whenever There is oranges to be eaten, but at this point, as you said, that top lane gank, Wonderware just completely getting taken to pieces. His ultimate, he tried to kite back into it, could never really get there, and didn't draw Kyrie in. Kyrie was a little bit too wise to that one. So, they've caught Heaver out for now, though, but you can see the return damage coming out. Senkux is going to let loose. Yeah,
connects 2. Again, 2 out of 3. Done that quite a lot this game. Heaver using a stand behind me, or rather stand behind you as I run away. Wicked in this mid lane, clearing out this minion wave. We're actually seeing a lot of downtime before team fights because the teams are just waiting for all their ultimates to come up, and it's just like, all right, now we're ready to team fight.
That, and they've both got such good wave clear. Yeah. Between Kog'Maw and between a Victor, nobody's pushing anywhere. Rumble in the mix as well. And then on the other side, Xerath, Sivir, Gangplank.
Yeah, it's a dead
Ain't no lanes getting pushed anywhere in this game. But Denial. Looking at group top lane again. Wonderware, he's recalling.
He is, and he's already eaten the oranges, I think. I don't think any amount of oranges is going to save you at this point. Actually hadn't eaten the oranges, but still will be chased down. Kyrie gets the jump from the bush. And another kill on to Wonderware. Just getting some good picks, making a lot of use out of these Rengar ultimates, as we saw in Game 1. Even later on into this game, using that with the rest of his team. Heaver did take some damage from Baron, actually, as obviously I think Prey Seekers are over the wall, but it's not going to deter them too much, I don't think. Actually still getting punished a little here. Kyrie jumps over the wall into that ward as well.
The problem for Team Dignitas right now is they're getting stalled heavily from their lead, and they're not able to utilize Wonderware in this game at all. We spoke about who can 1 versus 1 the Gangplank. That's not a question if Denial are 3v1ing it again and again. And then Team Dignitas are getting slowed by the wave clear from Cosq, by the wave clear from Warlight. Nobody has really touched bottom lane in about 10 minutes in this game.
Yeah.
Nobody's even been down there at this point. Wonderware is going to be heading that way himself, but that may open up the map for Denial to look for an engaged top side. You can see them positioning for it. Now they've spotted Wonderware down there. It's all on Team Dignitas to not get picked here. Their wave clear and their vision control has to be good enough to allow Wonderware to sit there, and you can see Wonderware's not confident in doing it. He slow pushed the bottom lane to push into the turret shortly, and now is grouping. He's not looking to all-in split push.
And the dodgy decision-making that we've seen from DNL is just not here. Like, we've seen a lot of good decision-making. We've seen them stall as well. They did get spotted out there, but Dignitas EU were typically the ones making the optimal decisions. And now, every single time the ultimate is up from Kyrie, he makes use of it. And even by himself, just with the assistance from Cosq, he's able to detonate Senkux. And all of a sudden, this game is looking so much like Game 1.
Just again, it's back to that Game 1. This time, wave clear comes through. No real way of capitalizing it for Denial. That is a massive barrel blast. And Kyrie's getting chunked down by Death's Daughter coming from that as well. Now Dig wants to engage.
Another powder keg. Heaver will be flashing back. Nisbet didn't get the combo onto him. Another crit in from Wonderware sends him packing with the rest of his team. Both Kyrie and Heaver on critical HP.
Surely Team Dignitas have to go for Baron here. This will completely undo Denial's game right now. They cannot wave clear Baron minions quite as effectively. Now you have to rely on the damage that's going to come out and shred this down as fast as possible, because you know you just sent the jungler back. Teleport is still available for Denial, but look, they just aren't. They don't have enough damage to do the Baron right now, and they have to back away. So that is all going to result in nothing really in favor of Team Dignitas. All they get from it is a little bit of pressure on the map, a little bit of time to control the vision, but look at all the wards behind Team Dignitas now. As soon as they look to back away, if anybody is backing while not with the group, this is dangerous. And this is dangerous. Knowing there's time for a jungler to regroup and teleport being on the top laner. Wicked's already teleporting in.
And 2,000 health left. Who is going to secure it? Everyone's in the pit. It's stolen away by Kyrie. And they will just turn this fight around. Obvious over the wall, not able to get there. He's taken out by Denial. The rest of the lineup is running away back to base. Wonderware and Cubby were chunked. You said it was dangerous stress, and that was why.
I don't understand the decision-making at this point. You know the jungler is back in base, so you start the Baron, then you choose not to do it, which is fine. I think that's the right choice, seeing how many people from Denial are there. But then to give Denial the time to regroup, and then to start the Baron is a real silly choice at that point from Team Dignitas. They couldn't burst it down fast enough, or they would have done it already.
Yeah, it was just questionable decision making there. There was a good gangplank ultimate just at the end, but we're actually going to see what led up to that fight just then.
You can see Team Dignitas is just trapped. The Rumble teleport has already come in, and it's an easy equalizer at this point. I mean, okay, Team Dignitas get away mostly with their lives, but the damage was already done.
Yeah, just after that, talking about the Gangplank ultimate, he did manage to land it onto a bunch of members from DNL, which stopped them pushing the mid lane, so they didn't lose turrets from that, but it just meant DNL turned around and took the dragon instead. So now 3-1 on those dragons. While Gangplank still does a lot of damage, it doesn't matter if the rest of the team all just gets collapsed on by Denial.
Right, and you can see that the wave clear here, Senkux wasn't there. Teleport coming in from behind, they have to use this positioning. Woolite is caught out, but there is an escape route if you can get to it around the side.
And Nisbet is there as well. Gets the shutdown with Wonderwear. Obvious, jumps over the wall, tries to get onto Kyrie. Flashes, jumps, doesn't get it onto either of those targets. Was trying to maybe take him out as he went into stealth. Actually still had the Banshee, so even if he'd landed that, that wouldn't have helped out too much. I said the shopping orb. It's the shocking orb. You can just send it off to do your rounds. Do the groceries.
Gotta buy more oranges. That kind of fight is what Team Dignitas have to aim for, which is they were in a very similar position in the last game, trying to utilize the Tam Kench to get there, but Team Dignitas' just plan of trying to use the Gangplank off in a side lane has just been stalled out. They're going to go for the engage.
Cannon Barrage once again cuts off Heaver and Kozq. Great ultimates coming in from Senkus. It is raining down on top of Kozq. Again, he's the first one to die in this team fight. Wicked responding with the Electro Harpoons. Can he get any more damage out? He's already used the Equalizer. And Kyrie is off to the side. He almost has his ultimate. This is an aggressive push into middle lane. The mini wave is dissipating, but they get a good shocking orb onto Wicked this time around. That's 2 kills onto the 2 big carries, onto Denial. They still have Kyrie and Woolite. How much can Dig take away from this?
At this point, Baron Up minions are going to push back in favor of Denial, but it's not enough by the looks of it. Team Dignitas is just shoving in a normal wave in. Woolite has been chunked.
Perfect ultimate coming in for On the Hunt. They get Heaver caught out. He's underneath that turret. Obvious is getting lasered down by that inhibitor turret. Kyrie jumps in, just get the bowler and the lock onto Nisbet. He'll be taken out by that turret. Wonderwear as well, taking those ultimates from Woolite, and the minion wave is eventually taken down from Denial, but at great cost.
It looked so good for Team Dignitas when they chunked Woolite. If they maybe hadn't have gone quite so aggressive, they could have looked to have taken that tower at this point, but Team Dignitas still showing signs of life. That is the key thing here, is they can take these engagements where Denial aren't grouped up and aren't getting the initial pick for these fights, but certainly they are few and far between.
Yeah. If they can continue doing this, Dignitas can definitely find a way to increase their gold advantage, but they still have to keep at the back of their minds that Dragon is still a thing. They're still 2 dragons away from Aspect onto Denial. Baron is a fair ways off, looking at 3 or 4 minutes on that one. But yeah, this game was definitely made harder from the Baron attempt from Dignitas. But it's not out of the realms of possibility yet for them to take this game. Remember, they are still 1 game down up against Denial. Denial just needs to win this 1 game, and they'll be going into the finals. So Dignitas really have to pick up this win.
I must admit, I like Wonderwear's barrel usage in this game.
Pretty smart, actually, yeah.
Where he's... I mean, the difficult thing with the new Gangplank is trying to put barrels directly in front of you, but if you can combo one near you that is safe, that is just within range to get the explode combination, it's a pretty good setup. However, Senkux flashes away from Rengar.
This is a good engage from Denial so far. Great equalizer, cuts off the escape route as well. Kyrie is looking to lead the charge, jumps in with the bowler, does not connect it. Heaver, everyone is turning around back onto Denial. This could be the turnaround that Dignitas need. A good laser will chunk them down. Nisbet will bite the dust here. Woolite looking to get the down onto Kobe, but he has low mobility in this game with the Cogmore. Senkux looking for that shocking orb, does not connect it this time around. Kozq is still low. The retreat still has to come in from Denial, but that was a 1-for-1 exchange just on the supports.
It's becoming very difficult for Denial to actually get themselves into the fight onto the backline. You saw the Gangplank ultimate come down right in between the front line and the back line from Denial. It meant the damage wasn't there from Denial in the beginning of that fight. And Team Dignitas backline was just able to rain down the damage onto Braum. And Braum, yes, he can use his ultimate to get the knockups, but once that's out, he's a very short-range champion, and all he can do is block more damage with his shield. And if he's the one taking the damage, then and yeah, he's going to fall pretty quickly at that point, even though he does have a locket, even though he is fairly tanky in his own right. But you can see exactly how Dignitas want to play these team fights. They're getting a handful of team fights that work out the way they want, but certainly they are hard fought, as Kyrie is continuing to look for those picks. This time Flash not available for Xerath if they catch him out again.
There's going to be some forced team fights in the next couple minutes, though, because Dragon is spawning in 40 seconds, Baron another 20 seconds after that. So both teams will be setting up for that one. It's pretty important that Dignitas contest this, as it will be 4th, putting them on the tipping point for 5th from Denial. And leading up to this fight, a lot of items have been picked up. Senkux has gone for his Death Cap with the Rylai's, a Fiend's, and the Void Staff here. So pretty just standard build for the mid lane. Top lane, kind of interested in what the Gangplank is building. Going to hold that fort as Kyrie has popped his ultimate. He jumps onto Obvious. He's pretty tanky here. There comes the Cannon Barrage to try and disengage. Obvious will get the knocker, but he knows he's done for at this point. The rest of the team will be trying to get away. It's damage control at this point. Or maybe it's just a re-engage. Nisbet jumps in with the combo. Kobe as well does get exhausted. I think he managed to spell shield it, but Nisbet will drop after re-engaging with his team, and everyone else has to back off. They should have just left him.
Yeah, at that point, Obvious was already got nice Zonya's Hourglass to keep CosQ safe. Wouldn't have been enough to kill, but the damage was certainly worth mitigating. Denial don't feel comfortable enough to go for the Dragon at this point, but look at Kyrie looking for the re-engage from the side. He is on a warded area, though, so he is going to back away. Team Dignitas, with the Gangplank, I wonder how much damage they can actually do to this Dragon if they were to look for it, or at least just secure the vision. Problem is the rest of Denial are around. So even though Denial are kind of chunked, I don't think this is a Baron. That's a very fast ultimate coming back up. Kyrie is looking for somebody that's out of position. He's going to find Kobe. Spell shield?
Not in time. And the bowler lands, the lockdown gets in, the flash comes away here. It doesn't really matter if they kill him or not. The flash being down on the AD carry is enough, and he had to use the heal. They got what they came for. They got the summoners, and now they can just turn around for the Dragon.
However, Obvious is here. This should be a fairly easy Dragon to steal away. Denial don't even want to look to take it at this point. They started it off and have to back away. They don't have a smite. This is Dragon going over to Team Dignitas, so real tense back and forth. Little scraps that are coming out here, and it's Team Dignitas that are edging their way ahead in this game, but it is a very hard-fought game right now.
Probably feeling it in the hearts for sure, but yeah, that was a really heads-up play from Dignitas there, knowing that they could take that Dragon. But we did have the teleport in from Wicked. We could see some fights opening up very quickly. Yeah,
got to keep in mind, Team Dignitas are 0-1 in this best of 3 right now. Denial, they've looked slower than they did in the last game, running exactly the same composition as Game 1 that took them to a fairly consistent and convincing win over the Team Dignitas lineup to get that 1-0 score so far. They want to go on to Obvious right now, but they can't get it. And a reminder that the winner of this game will book themselves a spot in the finals.
Wonderware gets caught out. He uses the oranges. He flashes over the wall. And now Kyrie may be in a bad position. The lockup comes from this bet, but everyone gets knocked up in this one, and everyone has to take a timeout before Senkux turns around, gets the damage down, but Nisbet will be falling. Wicked in from the sidelines, landed the equalizer. In comes the ultimate in from Senkux. Last one comes down, and that will be Zonya'd out by CosQ. Now they head towards the Baron. Wicked in tow. The rest of the team from Dignitas had to head back. And actually coming back into this, they're going to go for this fight.
Teleport coming in from Gangplank as well. Denial, they're still chunked. The shocking orb.
Senkux comes after, lands that orb. Obvious as well, looking for this fight. Wonderware from the back lines assassinates the Victor, looking for Kyrie as well. He has the barrel set up. He gets the double kill. He's looking for more. The rest of the team over the wall. And Kobe comes in with the boomerang blade to pick up that kill. Wicked will have to run away, as well as Warlike dropping down. And that was a 4-0. Dignitas think about the Baron, but they're like, we have a mini wave in the bottom lane. We can take more.
This is going to be a long push in now, considering they have to run to the bottom lane, but there are 50-second death timers here, and they have a Gangplank with a lot of crit. I wonder whether they can actually just push through these turrets. They've got a lot of damage to deal, but I think they can get it at this point.
Yeah, they don't even need the minions. They'll just take that middle turret. Gangplank does a lot of damage against turrets. There goes the inhibitor. Now the minion wave has come in. There comes the Death Daughter upgraded cannon barrage to clear out the minion wave and zone away Wicked. The first Nexus turret is falling down. Wicked is the only person trying to stop them from doing so. Zhonya's comes up, but this tower is going to fall regardless. And now they're onto the Nexus. All they have to do is focus it. Wicked just doesn't have enough damage. And Team Dignitas pull this one out of the bag and take the second game in this best of 3.
What a crazy end to this game. This game was just all small little fights for the last 20 minutes. And finally, Team Dignitas find themselves the fight that they were looking for. They get the flank, and as you said, just assassinated with a parlay from Gangplank onto Cosq, and so much of the damage was gone. There was nothing left in the tank for Denial at the end of that. They put up a real hard push in the end of that game. But the wave clear from both teams are so strong that it was stalled out into that last fight.
Yeah, and it all just came down to that final Baron. Both teams trying to go for it themselves, and it was just so smart. The teleport coming in at the very end just to cut them off. And yeah, 1-1 team fight decisively. Wicked was not enough by himself to stop that push. And that was a minion wave being so far back. They took a tower and inhib 2 towers and the Nexus at the very end. It was kind of incredible as a finish to that game.
Pretty crazy end to that game. It was a messy game.
Yes. Yes, it was.
Better from Senkux. With regards to staying safe in the mid lane. Early game, completely just wave cleared the entire time.
He did get caught twice in that game. First one, I don't know if it was necessarily him, as it was just bad timing on the warding, but the second time was just getting caught. But yeah, definitely a big improvement from the first game.
You could see that Kyrie struggled to get the engages a lot more. There were a couple that he still managed to get, but certainly it was a difficult setup. But there were a couple of team fights that were very prolonged, and this game was just kind of who was in the fight? Was it Wonderwear? Was it Woolite coming in? Who turned around the fight? And we're actually going to take a look at one of the team fights to begin with. This was one of the mid lane team fights that ended up 2 for 2. The one that Woolite was all the way down in the bottom side. So this is Team Dignitas taking the advantage from the beginning. You can see just how much damage that Gangplank opened up with. Then Cobby gets absolutely annihilated at that point. Kyrie gets himself out. And this is where the team fight really begins to turn, because Woolite gets himself into the fight before there is any armor really onto Obvious. And just the range coming from Woolite is just so difficult for Team Dignitas to deal with right now.
Yeah, but they did respond with it later on into that game. Good flank by Wonderwear throughout these team fights. And yeah, you're right. The later this game went on, the harder it was for Denial to go for those team fights, because they went for the initiates, they got the great equalizers and these choke points, but then Gangplank's like, well, I have an ultimate as well, which does basically the same thing, and plunks that down as Denial are coming in, and they all get hit by it.
Yes, they all get hit by it. But I think everybody got hit a lot by Gangplank in this game.
Yes, yes, they did.
A lot. Yeah. Lots of Gangplank
I mean,
damage.
the barrels are very difficult to avoid, but we did want to take a look at another replay coming into this. It was the game-winning fight at Baron, and really need to take another look at how the TP came in. So Gangplank's right in behind them.
I would say Cosq took a lot of damage, but he was so low to begin with as it was. And then Kyrie takes the damage from Wonderwear straight up as well. At this point, Denial were just so low that it was just a good choice of fight from Team Dignitas. Some really weird decisions when it came to the Baron pit area.
Yeah.
First, Team Dignitas tried to do Baron when the jungler was up, and Obvious comes in and steals it away. And Kyrie comes in, steals it away from Obvious after he dies. Then Denial do that at the end of the game and just put themselves in a position where they haven't de-warded behind you. You haven't set up the area well enough to just not respect the teleport coming through.
Yeah, but it was always that snap decision-making from both teams, especially that last one. It was like instantly they've gone for the Baron, boom, we go back, we have the Rek'Sai jump in with the Void Rush and then teleport in the GP. It was just like instant. Even in the bad decisions, everyone made that right play at the right time, even though it didn't work out. So yeah, it was good from both teams in terms of execution. But remember, guys, this is 1 apiece now. So whoever wins this next game in this best of 3 will be going on to the grand finals, and the loser will drop into the 3rd place game. And honestly, both of these teams deserve to go to the finals here because they are so incredibly strong. Probably the best I've seen Denial throughout the entire split at the moment here.
I would agree, and I cannot wait. I can't wait to see what they've got for us in Game 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a fantastic game. So that is 2 games down. The teams are 1 win apiece. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break, and we'll be back to decide who will advance to the EU Challenger Series Finals.